Exact coordinates for the drop given?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've got that here in front of me with the thing. If you have a couple of seconds to wait, I can't immediately see it on this paper because it's handwritten and faint. But the coordinates, the specific coordinates, were marked on a huge atlas where the Purulia drop was to take place. Because at that stage it was a disused airfield near Dhanbad. Those coordinates were marked on the map, and that map was produced to the trial court and today sits in the evidence files for that court case. And apart from that, Stephen Elcock, the special branch officer who came to India, fully admitted that he'd been given the full coordinates. He knew the registration number of the aircraft. All this was known to them and supplied to the Indian government.
Kim Devi had said that he was contacted by an Indian politician to make the arms drop. And then he says there were a group of 24 Indian politicians who wrote a letter as well. But that's the kind of public lobbying that happens. Public lobbying does not always translate into direct action against people in your own state or against a state government or supporting an insurrection. Who is that politician?
I don't know the names of any politicians. I can only look at the evidence that was produced in the court. And when you see what happened, you can only then conclude. The only possible conclusion is this was done with official sanction, because too many things happened that could not normally happen. And for those things to happen, very, very powerful people must have given orders. Who was it who took Christian Nielsen or Kim P. Davy, whatever his name is, who took him out of India into another country in an Indian diplomatic car? You know, this is a very serious thing. This man was whisked out of the country. He didn't escape by himself.
What is your hard proof of that? Is that also something that Kim Davies told you, or do you have any documentary proof that he was taken away in an Indian government car across the border?
No, I don't personally have any documentary proof of that, but he says so openly, and I think if his story is checked, it can be substantiated. There will be witnesses. Don't forget, nobody has ever wanted this man back in India up until now. The CBI pretended for years that they didn't know where Kim Davy was. In actual fact, he was in Denmark talking to the press. For years, nobody wanted this man back in India at any cost. Now, suddenly, he is wanted back in India. Why is this? Nobody knows the answer to this.
No, you're pointing a lot of fingers at people in the Indian establishment, but you're not going into any specifics, Peter. Why is that?
Well, there's still a court case running on this. Don't forget that Niels Holck, as he's now known, will be up before a judge in Denmark in a couple of weeks' time. So there's a court case to go. Secondly, I don't know all the answers yet. I'm working very hard to find some of these answers. But yes, I am pointing the fingers at the establishment. We know, for example, now with declassified documents in Denmark, that the Danish Justice Minister received a full briefing only a few days after I passed the information to MI5. And the Danish Justice Ministry took no action whatsoever either. We also know, and I've got the documents here, that Kim Davy and his co-conspirators were operating out of, at one stage, from the Danish Consul General in Durban. We've got the proof of that. Excuse me. Now, I can't say to you who personally was involved, why the Danish government did that, but the evidence is there. You know, people need to make explanations. Don't you think, if I can ask you a rhetorical question, that the people of India, and specifically the people of West Bengal, after all these years, are entitled to some answers on what happened here? All I'm trying to do is find the truth.
Sure, but if you knew the truth, I'll respond with a counter-rhetorical question to you, Peter.
Yes,
my question to you is, there is a system in Indian law, you can turn approver. Now, you were in Indian jails, you contacted tuberculosis, some say you came close to dying, you were in completely inhospitable circumstances, you knew the truth. Now here's what some people will say, Peter, and I hope you don't mind.
No, please do.
A conspiracy theory will say that Peter Bleach is a hardened intelligence official working with the British government who will not give up his loyalties towards his country unless pushed to the absolute brink, which you were at one point of time. And therefore, you kept quiet under all those circumstances when you had the option of doing the right thing, which is what you're doing now, which is telling the people of Bengal and the people of India the real story. My question to you is, if you knew at that time that there was a strong suspicion of elements of the Indian state, Indian government, Indian members of parliament, Indian intelligence officers being part of this entire operation, why did you not reveal it then in all those years?
Because first of all, what we know, this is the benefit of hindsight, and I've got to stress that. This is 15 years later. When the trial began, I did not know much of this. I had been told by MI5 that the Indian government wanted the guns delivered to India so that when the plane landed at Varanasi, it could be arrested and all the conspirators seized, the cargo seized, and then they could interrogate them and identify the insurgent group that wanted the arms. That was always my understanding of what this was all about, and I behaved accordingly. Now, you asked me why I didn't turn a prover. I was never allowed to do so. The day after I was arrested, I gave the CBI a full 30-page statement, which I typed myself on a computer. It gave every detail of that operation, how everything happened, who I told, who I reported to. That was all given in. I didn't wait for anybody. I gave that immediately to the CBI. When we came to the court, the CBI denied that I'd ever made that statement. The CBI denied that the officers who questioned me were ever involved in the Purulia case. So I realized straight away that what everybody was trying to do was actually to get me hanged. Don't forget, a British special branch officer came to an Indian court and he lied on oath in a case where I was facing a death sentence. Now, there's only one reason why you would lie on evidence when somebody is receiving a death sentence, and that's because you're trying to get them that death sentence. Somebody in the British establishment tried very hard to kill me in India. That's what that was all about. Nobody wanted me to turn an approver, in exactly the same way as nobody wanted to get Kim Davey back from Denmark, where they knew he was. Instead, they told journalists, we're chasing him in South America, we're chasing him in Australia. He was never anywhere near these places. He was sitting in Denmark giving interviews to the Danish press. So the answer to your question is very simple. Nobody allowed me to tell the story to the court.
But then you mentioned the officials you mentioned. 5 or 6 officials you mentioned, you say it was part of your 30-page testimony which you put before the CBI. Now, come on,
Yes.
Peter. Who are these officials? Who are these officials? I mean, there are some names doing the rounds. Surely you know some. You couldn't have a lapse of memory on that. So tell us who they are.
No, I don't have a lapse of memory. If you ask me a direct question, if I know the answer, I will answer it. I was questioned by CBI in Kolkata by J.K. Dutt, PM Nair, and Loknath Behera, and also a deputy superintendent called P.S. Mukhopadhyay. They know very well why J.K. Dutt questioned me. I don't know, because actually UN Biswas was the officer in charge, but he was sidelined completely. He was pushed out by J.K. Dutt.
Why?
I don't know why. I was held as a prisoner. Nobody
Did J.K. Dutt know anything more?
I beg your pardon, I'm sorry.
Did J.K. Dutt have any specific information or role?
He certainly received my full 30-page statement, so he knew from the very beginning. But J.K. Dutt actually interviewed me in Mumbai, Bombay Airport. Only minutes after we landed, matter of hours, J.K. Dutt was there questioning me. And then he appeared again in Kolkata. But the CBI officials denied to the trial court that those officers were ever in Kolkata, ever having anything to do with this case. They were absolutely the main investigators. J.K. Dutt went to Britain to liaise with British security services, and PM Nair went to Latvia, where he threatened the families of the Latvian crew. He told them that if they didn't stop talking to the newspapers, life would be very hard for the crew.
1 minute.